Hello, this is Lydia from Happy Place Painting. We're trying something new again. Some voice audio overlay. I get to be subconscious about myself in a whole new way. um, so today's painting I named Brianne's Mountains because I am painting some mountains for my friend Brianne. She asked me to do this a while back. And by a while back, I mean like it's been like a year. But it was also my first time painting on this size of canvas. And I didn't have an easel that was big enough to support that large of a canvas, so I had to do it on the ground. I'm very sorry for my butt crack and this horrible editing that I did to try and hide it. But you know, I'm always learning, and this is just part of the learning process. I'll just need to get myself a bigger easel. I just love starting a new project. Skies and water are my absolute favorite. It's just, I just kind of zone out, and I don't even really use the reference photo. Actually, most of the time when I use a reference photo, it never looks like the reference photo. I just like seeing how the colors work together. Now, you see it just jumped there. My cameras both died, so that was fun. Here I'm using my favorite brush, my fan brush, to do some clouds. I wanted a really active sky, lots of fog, lots of clouds, and it's really fun to just kind of go with it. So usually when I do a sky, I like to use ultramarine blue, but I of course ran out, so I used bright blue, and I tried to compensate by using a lot more white and crimson red to give it a little bit of a purple color, like just barely. Now as you can see, I use a big fluffy brush. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what a lot of these things are called. I am not a professional. I'm just someone just having fun with some paint. And the big fluffy brush, I use it when I'm doing the bottom part and just like lightly brush over it so it kind of smudges it, so I don't have to make super defined details in the water. And then that way it's kind of a cheat. I don't have to do the exact same thing in the reflection. It can be a little off because I'm blurring it. So now I'm doing some yellow, which is always fun to add a little highlight, little pops of color here and there. I was hoping to get a little bit more red in this painting because Brianne loves the color red, but for some reason, every time I put the red down, it just didn't work. It was too much. So I stuck with the more orange and yellow tones to try and get my sunset look. I did add a little bit of pink in the corner though, just to hide behind. Here I painted the white. I looked at it and I was like, no. And then I just added the yellow. This is my favorite part. Isn't it just so satisfying to see that crisp white line, even though it kind of was a little bit of a handicap later on because then I ended up having a line. So next time I probably won't do it that way. I'll wait until I've done my sky, then remove it, and then do my bottom part. So you learn, right? Oh, this music is from my friend Nivius. His songs are the second and third songs in this video. I've also used them in my 2 other videos too. I linked his channel in the description of this video. I use his music a fair amount, mainly because I'd rather use a real person's music than the free music, but I'll take the free music, as you can tell, because I put it a lot in this video too. Again, some beautiful editing work on my part, again, to cover up my butt crack. I'm very sorry about that. So to do the background mountains and hills, I used a mixture of black and burnt sienna and a little bit of blue. And then I used my palette, my scraper thing. Again, don't know the terms. Little Bob Ross technique there. This whole thing is pretty inspired by Bob Ross. I love doing his tutorials or videos, and sometimes I just listen to them just to chill. But these mountains are very much made with his technique. I got the mist by putting a little dab of white paint and water and just mist around the mountain because I don't want any harsh defined lines because I'm cheating. Working on the hills now, I added a little bit of color, but I didn't want it to be bold enough for you to be able to see it clearly. I want it to look far enough away, and it's sunset, right? So the colors are going to be darker. I'm mirroring the image on the top on the bottom a little bit, but again, I was trying to just do it vaguely so then it's not defined, but just enough so you could tell that it's the reflection in the water, and then I go back over it with my fluffy brush and just kind of blur it out. Started working on some happy trees here. Sorry you can't see very well because I'm standing directly in the way of the camera, but there's only so much I can work with the new stuff that I'm trying out. I'm using the same fan brush I used to make the clouds in the sky, and I used a mixture of sap green and burnt sienna, a little bit of blue and black to make the dark shape of the tree. And then when it's a little bit drier, I go back over it with some more sapling green, and I do the same thing in the water and then blur it out with the fluffy brush. Feel free to correct my technique and actually name what the objects are if you're just cringing while you're watching this, and leave a comment, and then that way I can improve myself because life is about learning. And while I'm making those trees, I'm adding a little highlight with some medium yellow. I'm trying really hard not to create too much of a pattern because nature is very sporadic and random. So I do use the reference photo a little bit so I can look at the height of the trees so I can mix it up so it doesn't look all like tall, small tree, and there's a variation and there's enough shadows. The right side of my canvas is going to have a lot more green and brighter colors than the left side, just because the way the light is coming through, it's shining more to the right than it is to the left because it's hiding behind the hill. Finally put some pants on that cover up my butt crack so we don't see that anymore. Very sorry again. This painting took me about 3 weeks to make, so I do a little bit every day. I have another job, obviously, so I'm busy. Every once in a while you're going to see my little dogs. I have two, Rory, who's a toy Aussie, and Colt, who's a mixture of Springer Spaniel and Border Collie. All the happy trees. I love this. It's so relaxing. Mind you, sitting down the way I was for most of the time, I was sitting on my feet, and then I'd go to stand up, and my foot was numb. So, again, I need a bigger easel if I'm going to be making any more of these large projects like this. I've been painting now only for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I mainly like landscape paintings. This one is supposed to be like Western Canadian landscape, probably somewhere out in BC. Again, my paintings never turn out like the reference photo. I much prefer to do my own thing. I just find it more enjoyable that way. I don't stress about the tiny details of making it look absolutely perfect because that's just not my jam. So when I got to this side of the canvas, there's a lot more shadows and a lot more dark colors, so I wasn't using as much of the sapling green, and this angle is much better for being able to see me paint properly. You can see kind of where the tape used to be. I regret that. Next time I'm not going to do my sky in and water at the same time. I'll remove the tape before I do the water, just so I don't end up with that dark line. It goes away a little bit the more I layer, but it's just inconvenient. In front of me you can see the recent paintings that I've done, the Greece landscape that I did a couple weeks ago. There's that video's already up. And then next to it you can see the butterfly and the flowers. My dad had asked me to paint something that represented me, and I was like, alright. And I just added a bunch of stuff to a canvas. None of it really works together, but they're all little pieces that I feel reflect my personality. You can see my other dog now coming into the room. He's just lying next to me. They're good dogs, except for when they walk on my canvas, which he did several times. Doesn't he just look adorable, just lying there and watching me paint? He's like, I'm so bored, but I just want to be next to you. It's so cute. And you just seen him walk there. I was so mad. I was glad it didn't leave a dent in the canvas. It's like the absolute worst when you have a dent or a tiny hole that you have to try and cover up. Oh. There's a lot of trees, but you don't want it to look blotchy and empty. You want it to be nice and full. This was probably the longest part, doing all the trees and then going back over and adding some extra little trees with some highlight and some extra color, and looking back and seeing if there are other areas I should be adding more. I love adding highlight. It's like adding little spots of magic wherever I want. It's just very relaxing. I'm making little stick bushes now. I used burnt umber, burnt sienna, white, a little bit of yellow ochre, mix that all up. I had like 3 or 4 different tones and a little bit of black near the bottom, so that adds like a little shadow. This is probably because I learned how to paint because of Bob Ross, but I'm imagining there's like a little beaver family living in that bush that has like their dam underneath the water, because I'm a nerd. So as you can see, I'm having a glass of wine. I usually have some form of beverage going while I'm painting. You gotta stay hydrated, even though I'm pretty sure wine doesn't keep you hydrated. I drink tea while I'm making this too, but I'm sitting there for a couple hours, so I swear I don't have a problem. I want to apologize for how dark the lighting is in here. Near the end of the video, I did end up buying a lighting kit, which makes a world of a difference, and it was recommended to me by another YouTuber. And then another friend taught me how to set up the lighting, so I'm learning a lot making these videos, and I'm only on video 3, and I'm definitely planning on making more. Look at that terrible lamp. It does nothing. It does nothing. It makes things worse. So as you can see, I added some darker trees in the front just to, again, we're building, trying to make it look more natural because nature is sporadic. I don't know why the video is cutting like that there. But now we're doing grass. Lots of tiny little grass, which is a lot faster than doing trees. It's a hell of a lot faster. But right here I'm just using sapling green and a little bit of blue, because I guess the further back grass for some reason is a little bit brighter. As I add more tones, they're going to be a little bit more darker. Or I'm using my angled brush here. I really need to buy myself some more angled brushes. I have like 2 and they're super handy. Oh look, we have lighting! Isn't that so much better? We're doing the grass and the reflection, sweeping it over, blurring it out. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but the grass further to the left is a lot thinner than it is to the right. That's not because the grass is actually thinner, it's just because there's less lighting there, so there's going to be less bright colors. So I'm adding a lot less bright green to that end, and when I go back I'll be adding more darker tones to that side of the canvas than the other side. A big part of landscaping is knowing where your light is coming from, so you can determine where your highlights are going, where the bright colors are going. This has a lot of more mute tones. It's a lot of green, a lot of brown. I guess this guy's got a big pop of color, but I would like to point out that I'm painting this in the morning, so I'm drinking lemon water in this scene. Like I said before, this was the largest canvas I've ever painted. Usually the biggest is like a 16 by 20 that I usually do. Believe it or not, I paid $25 for that canvas at a flea market in this little town. And it was a lot more work than I anticipated. Usually it takes me about a week to do one painting. I try to do a little bit every day. But this one took me a lot longer because it's a lot larger and I didn't want to go cheap on the details because then it'll just ruin it, right? I try to paint every day because it's my happy place, like this channel's called. It's my time to relax and not stress about everything, bills and work and everything else. My painting lets me de-stress, and I've noticed that if I go a long time without painting, I start to get a lot more anxious, I stress more, and then when I start painting again, it's just like a deep long breath. It's just like and I feel better. I hope everybody finds that, because it took me a long time to find something that really like clicks and just helps me deal with life. So now I'm working on the grass that's a lot more forward, so there's a lot more colors. Again, there's a lot of burnt sienna, burnt umber, some yellow ochre, and there's a little bit of crimson in there too. On the right, I used a lot more red and white, and I went back and covered it up because I just didn't like it. I liked more the yellow ochre. I find it did more just to get the more natural color I was looking for. We're looking for a color of like cat's tails, you know, brown water plants stuff. This is essentially in the water. There's my little dog who wants to play. I was actually throwing her toy in the midst of painting just because I felt so bad. She kept on bringing it back, and I'm like, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. So every couple minutes or so I would throw it, and then she'd come back with it. She's only a year old, so she's still very, very active. I'm trying to leave little gaps here and there where the grass is, and I'm also trying to layer them a little bit on top of each other so it doesn't look like a straight line. So like some are a little bit more forward, some are more back. So again, as I'm moving closer to the left side of the canvas, I'm using a lot less bright colors, more darker tones. And I'm just like trying to fade it in. I don't want it to be like a drastic change because that'll be obvious. You can tell how long I've been painting by the amount of different splotches and color tones on my one piece of paper. Doing the grass, I try not to wash my brush between strokes because in that way the colors mix together and it looks a lot cooler, also less time consuming. So I'm nearing pretty close to the finished project here. All I have really left is to finish the rest of the water plants, add some little highlight, and then any other little details. I add a little bird just because I figured it needed something in the sky. So that's it. I'm done. I'm gonna sign it, and thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. Hopefully I'll get another one out soon. Bye!